What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're continuing on with my series of videos on the Lilo and Stitch franchise. Thankfully, my buddy Blacktastic Media has joined me once again for another video here, and today we're talking about the third film to come out in the franchise, but technically number 2, Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch. Directed by Michael LaBash and Tony Leondis, this film stars Dakota Fanning for the only time as Lilo, Chris Sanders once again as Stitch, then the rest of a returning cast like Tia Carrere, David Ogden Stiers, Kevin McDonald, Jason Scott Lee, and many, many more. So before we get too far into this, I'd like to say a big thanks to all of you guys for clicking here on this video. And if you're just now hopping in, maybe you're a new subscriber. Yeah, I've been slowly covering the Lilo and Stitch films, having already covered the original film, Lilo and Stitch, the film called Just Stitch the Movie that leads into the Lilo and Stitch animated series that is on Disney Plus now, but used to be on the Disney Channel. And now we're talking about the next film that came out that is technically the sequel to the first one, and that is Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch. And this is an interesting film because similar to a lot of Disney sequels at this time, this was one that went straight to video instead of having the theatrical release that the original film had, which for a lot of Disney films was very common. This film also has a score done by Joel McNeely, who actually did do scores for other Disney properties and sequels, things like Fox and the Hound 2, Mulan 2, Cinderella 3, but also things like Flipper, Buffalo Soldiers, The Adventures of Young Indiana Jones, Holes, Air Force One, and many, many other films. So one thing that you're going to hear both Blacktastic and I say is that one thing that's great about this film right out of the gate is the musical composition. I love the musical score of this film. It definitely works. It gets you wrapped up in the emotions, and yeah, it's definitely one of the highlights of the film. And before I go ahead and throw it off to my guest, Blacktastic Media, to Jaya of Blacktastic Media, the one and only, yeah, I wanted to just kind of talk about the base premise of this film, and then we're going to hear what my buddy had to say about this movie. Stitch Has a Glitch opens up with a dream sequence where we see Stitch going on a rampage. He's destroying Hawaii, and he's going to destroy everything around him. He's got green eyes, and he ends up waking up and feeling like something is wrong with him. Well, over the course of the film, we start to see Stitch have these glitch moments where he feels like he's losing control of his mind and his body and starts to do things that, you know, kind of make him a bit more of a villain. In the first film, it's all about him learning to be good, and the base real theme of that movie, beyond family, is also the idea that you can be created to be one thing, you can be a product of a certain environment, but with the right people and support system that you can change. And at the end of that first film, Stitch finds family. At the end of that first film, Stitch finds happiness and purpose and meaning, and he finds goodness within himself, even though he himself at times felt like a monster. And he finds that through the love of his friend Lilo and her family. And so moving into this film now, you have this beautiful bond right out of the gate between Stitch and Lilo as they've spent more time together, and you just kind of get a far more sense of family in this film with Nani as well as Jumba and Pleakley and the rest of the gang. But unfortunately, since Stitch is having these glitch moments, he's starting to hurt the people around him, most notably Lilo, and she feels like she can't trust him anymore, and she feels like he's turning bad. But he doesn't have control of this, and he truly doesn't know what's wrong with him. That's when we end up finding out that when Jumba was creating Stitch, unfortunately, Stitch was not fully charged. The process of creating him was not complete, leaving him kind of incomplete and kind of in this state of just erraticness, essentially. So now after all this time, Stitch is starting to kind of act weird, and he's starting to kind of lash out, and he starts to lose control, and like I said, he starts to hurt those around him, specifically Lilo. On top of all that going on, you have Lilo going for this hula competition where she gets the opportunity to create her own dance and her own story using a song of her choice and try to tell a story through the dance of hula and all those different kind of things that you can expect from Hawaiian culture. And we learn through all this that Lilo struggles as the fact that her mother is no longer with her. And we get to spend a little bit more time in this film with that relationship between Lilo and Nani, getting to see how Nani has had to step into that motherly role even though she is Lilo's sister, and the struggle that the two of them face. But you really do feel the presence of the mother here, and you really do have that element of the film weighing heavy on your heart, as Lilo is just a young girl who is a little bit crazy and a little bit wild, but at the end of the day, she has a huge heart and she just misses her mom and wants to fit in with everybody, but often doesn't. And then one side plot in this film that Blacktastic and I both agree was not necessarily necessary is David, who is the love interest to Nani. They've only been together for a few weeks. He doesn't really know how to go about talking to Nani. He feels like because she's so busy with work and Lilo and Stitch and all the madness of her life and trying to be the mother and the complete top dog, the alpha of her household, David kind of feels like he's always kind of secondhand. He's always kind of the second choice, and he ends up leaning on Pleakley to try to give him some dating advice, and Pleakley gives him terrible dating advice the entire time, and that's more of a comedic side plot that we don't really need in the film, but it's there and it's in that classic Disney way. But now that we've talked about the base premise, let's go ahead and throw it on over to Blacktastic Media, and we'll get back to my thoughts in just a moment.
Friends, how many of us have them? Friends, ones we can depend on. Let's be friends. That's an old school hip hop joint from Houdini, but the meaning of friendship, is what this video is all about. I consider my homie Anthony A. Perez a homie and a friend. Lilo and Stitch Part 2, Stitch Has a Glitch, focuses on friendship and the meaning of friendship and the power of friendship, which gets me every single time. I really cherish and adore friendship. This movie was a trip because it really dives into the background of how Stitch was created by the mad scientist who now lives on Earth with the Hawaiian family. And the movie opens up bombastic. It's a dream sequence, but the music is blazing. The special effects are cool. You got Stitch with these green eyes, flying with this spaceship, tearing up and causing havoc. You're like, man, what the hell is going on? Hence the title, Stitch Has a Glitch. What's cool, it gives the backdrop, how he was created, how the glitch was infecting him in present time, what happened to him in past tense. Really cool little plot. Also, there's a subplot with the older sister of Lilo and her 3-week-old boyfriend relationship. I didn't care for that subplot at all. I thought that was kind of weak. But there was another subplot. There was this hula contest coming up. And years ago, back in 1973, Lilo's mom performed and won. And she looks just like her mom. So the whole mom thing got me. All the girls in her circle talking, oh, my mom can help me do this. My mom can make my dress. My mom can help me dance. And Lilo, sat there saddened because her mom is no longer with her, only in spirit. The one thing that I really liked about this episode was the music and the score. You turn your head for a second and hear this bum, 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 bum. The score is like Steven Spielberg and John Williams doing a movie together. The score is amazing. Whenever there was action, I thought I was watching Indiana Jones. That's how impressive this music was for the score. Of course, you got Elvis. You got some hula numbers in there. And it's a really cute story. Probably the weakest out of the three, but I still appreciate the message. And the one thing I learned about these films is the message of family, love, and friendship. And, Disney does a good job of interweaving a strong message throughout these films, and they did it again. I was impressed. And the little song at the end, the little hula number, they was doing a little hula dance. They had a little music and a conga going. Hold my hand, I will love you. I will love you always. It was. I was like, you got me. But yeah, it was cute, man. Lilo and Stitch Part 2, Stitch Has a Glitch. Whenever he would glitch out, his eyes would turn green and he would go bombastic. It was pretty cool. He went ape shit up in this camp. But again, the message of friendship, not forgetting your loved ones, and love will conquer all. Very cute. Andy Perez, great job of getting me into this universe of Lilo and Stitch. I came in there rough, like, man, this is some bullshit. Walked out going, you got me, man, you got me. Right here, you got me. Peace. Until next time.
A big thanks to Blacktastic for joining me here once again. As usual, guys, you can find the link to any of my guests here down below in the description box. Go give them some love. Let them know I sent you. And Blacktastic, I am just thrilled to hear that you enjoyed this film. I was thrilled to hear that you enjoyed the last film. And I almost feel because you weren't a huge fan of the first film, but these characters seem to have grown on you a little bit, that maybe you would enjoy the first film a little bit more. I do agree with you that this isn't better than the original film. I think the first film is a stronger film, but I think there is a lot about this film that does work, and I do think, as you said, Disney does a really good job of honing into the idea of family and friendship, and this film more so with friendship. As you mentioned, that first film is all about family. It's all about the idea of finding family, and not sometimes your family not necessarily being just blood, you know, being able to discover your own version of what family is, on top of Stitch having to learn to be good when, again, he's a product of his environment that has kind of trained him and taught him and created him to be evil, and he finds peace and happiness and love and purpose through this family in Hawaii. And so moving into this film, now you have this issue where Stitch is struggling to control himself, and while there is a scientific side to it and they kind of have to try to save Stitch, there is this side of it as well where Lilo kind of begins to give up on him, specifically in a moment that still kind of tugs on the heartstrings for me every time I watch it, even though I know that this film is going to end up with a positive resolution, and that is the scene where Stitch ends up scratching Lilo in the face, which is reminiscent of what he saw in his vision earlier in the film.
Oh no, badness coming on.
What?
I have to.
Are you okay?
So to get to that point and just see the shame on his face when he accidentally hurts Lilo and tries to just run from her, and he's like, I need you to stay away, like I don't have control of who I am. It really works, and I think that Chris Sanders as Stitch, you know, even though it is a goofy character and he's got this, you know, very over-the-top voice and this crazy laugh, and he can be a little bit wild, he does a great job of bringing Stitch down to a very humanized level in a way. You really are able to relate with him so much and feel for his character. And you know, I think that we can all relate to a time in our life where maybe you felt a little out of control, maybe you snapped on somebody that you shouldn't have snapped on, maybe you hurt those around you, by allowing your sadness, your anger, and whatever the case may be to kind of taint the situation around you and hurt those around you. And I think that they handle that really well in this film. I think that the whole story around Lilo and Stitch in this film is really solid, and I found it to be emotional. Even though I've seen this film before, and even though I know there's an entire series that comes after this, an entire series that would run on the Disney Channel for many, many episodes that led into another film called Leroy and Stitch that you kind of need the show to really fully understand. Yeah, you know, I think that they do a good job of getting you gripped into the emotion of this film still, even if you can already see where it's going, even if it does feel predictable, even if it does feel lighthearted for the most part and doesn't really have the grandest of stakes. There are times you find yourself super invested in the characters here, and as a fan of Lilo and Stitch, specifically the character of Stitch, I think I just really connect with this film. I really enjoy the way that Stitch is portrayed, and I enjoy the idea of friendship in this film because, like I was saying, Stitch is going through all this, but it's really comes down to Lilo to be able to look at her friend and realize that they're out of control, realize that their friend is not in control of what they're doing, and realize that sometimes forgiving a friend and understanding where they are and, you know, not necessarily pushing them away because you're angry at them is the way to go. And I think that there's a lot of really great messages to take from this film. I thought the animation for this film is great too. I don't think it's necessarily better than the animation of the first film, but I would say it's a little bit better than the animation of Stitch the movie, since Stitch the movie was more of a straight to TV movie, and this one, Lilo and Stitch, at least got a straight to video release, at which you know, for the time was different enough. But nowadays it's kind of like everything just kind of goes to streaming, or it goes to TV, and kind of anything that's on TV is almost instantly on streaming. So we live in a different time now when it comes to, you know, the straight to DVD or the straight to VHS movies that we used to get. So Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch. Overall, I enjoy this film. I find it to be a cute, fun time. I don't think it's better than the first film. I don't think it's a timeless Disney classic, but as a follow-up to that original film that has some good messages about family, friendships, and themes about love, I think that this franchise overall has a really, really good heart to it. Is it the greatest written franchise in the Disney chronology? No. Is it something that's going to blow the socks off of people who have never seen it before? No. But if you throw these movies on and you're just looking for good messages, themes, things that adults, kids, and just families overall can take away from, I think that this franchise is really, really solid. I think it has a lot of heart, a lot of charm. It's goofy, it's silly, it's self-aware, it has fun with itself, and rewatching all of these Lilo and Stitch movies that I've watched so far, I've had a lot of fun going back and revisiting them. It's a franchise I love. Again, I've said it in my other Lilo and Stitch videos, but I have Stitch tattooed on my leg. I love the character of Stitch. I've always enjoyed this film, and going back and rewatching it, I still found myself emotionally connected, even if there were elements that maybe could have been trimmed out, like the whole dating element when it comes to Pleakley and David. That just feels kind of cutesy and not necessarily all that important when it came to everything else that was happening in the film that's a little bit higher stakes. So Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch. What do you guys think about it? Did you like it? Did you not like it? As usual, a big thanks to my guest in this video, and that is Blacktastic Media. The link to his channel will be found down below in the description box. Go give him some love. Let him know I sent you. But for now, I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say about the movie. So definitely chime in down below in the comment section. And if you guys are interested in seeing more reviews here on the channel for new movies, movies I get to check out a little bit early, or throwbacks like this that, you know, not a lot of people are talking about here on YouTube, I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say, and I definitely would love for you guys to hit that subscribe button. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.